You want me to get lost? You embezzled public fund, and the ironclad proof of you reselling the factory steel is all right here. With a deafening crash, I swing the heavy iron fire tongs and smash the family portrait on the table to pieces. Broken glass splattered all over the floor. My mother-in-law shrieked in terror and collapsed onto the ground. The scumbag was holding the imposter who had stolen my identity as the factory director's daughter. He pointed at me and bellowed, "Li Xiao, are you out of your mind? Get down on your knees and apologize to Legend right now. Then get lost with your 2 baggage kids." Holding my bleeding forehead, I let out a cold laugh. I slammed a black ledger right into his hypocritical face. You want me to get lost? You embezzled public funds, and the ironclad proof of you reselling the factory steel is all right here. Looking at the scumbag's face, which had turned as white as a sheet, I stepped on the ledger on the floor, with pure murderous intent in my eyes. Sign the divorce papers right now and let me take the kids, or I'll send you straight to prison. I woke up on the freezing concrete floor, my forehead sticky and covered in blood. Just a second ago, I was a powerful businesswoman. Now, I was a desperate housewife in the 1980s. My mother-in-law stood at the top of the stairs on the 2nd floor, questioning the deed to the house left by my parents tightly in her hand. Sign the papers and get lost already. This old villa belongs to our Wan family from now on. I stood up, holding my bleeding head, and grabbed the iron fire tongs right next to the coal stove. This house was left to me by my own parents. Who the hell do you think you are, you old hag? My mother-in-law stumbled back in terror, pointing a trembling figure at my nose. You little bitch! How dare you rebel against me? Just wait until Jingwa gets back. He'll beat you to death. I swung the heavy iron tongs and smashed the scumbag's photo frame on the table to pieces. Tell him to get his ass back here to see me, right now. If he's even a minute late, I will skin him alive. Shards of broken glass flew all over my mother-in-law's face. Screaming in terror, she collapsed onto the floor. The front door was kicked open with a loud bang, and the piercing cold wind swept right into the house. The scumbag, wearing a black leather jacket, walked in, holding a glamorous, provocative woman in a red sweater. This was the woman who had not only stolen my identity as the factory director's daughter, and now you still want to take over my home. The scumbag looked at the shattered glass scattered all over the floor, glaring at me with fury in his eyes. Are you out of your mind? Apologize to Lizin right now. Pack up your bags and get the hell out. The mistress covered her bright red lips, giggling coquettously, her eyes filled with pure, undisguised calculation. Jangle, honey, don't be mad. Where could she even go with those 2 useless burdens anyway? I let out a cold sneer and pulled a small black notebook straight out of my padded coat pocket. Where I live is none of your business. You better start worrying about yourselves instead. I flipped the book open, ripped out a page with all my strength, and slammed it right into that scumbag's face. The 8th of last month, you illegally resold exactly 2 tons of factory materials. Think to the black market? Did you really think no one would find out about the dirty things you did? As soon as the scumbag saw the handwriting on the paper, all the color instantly drained from his face. He scrambled in a panic to pick up the torn pieces of paper from the floor, trembling violently from head to toe. Seeing her son in a panic, my mother-in-law rushed forward, trying to snatch the original ledger right out of my hands. I took a sharp step back and held the ledger right over the glowing red coal stove. Take one more step, and I will hand these original documents straight over to the factory's discipline committee. With a heavy thud, the scumbag fell straight to his knees, desperately grabbing onto my dusty calves. Honey, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please, give me the ledger. We can still make this work. We can live a good life together. I kicked him hard, right in the chest, pushing him away. Tu took Dongzi and Wen En by their hands. We are getting our divorce papers signed today, and I am taking both of my children with me. Standing to the side, the mistress rolled her eyes in disdain, wishing more than anything that I would just get out of this house. Go ahead and take them all. They're nothing but useless, money-wasting mouths to feed anyway. I held my open palm right in front of the scumbag's face, my eyes glaring at him like sharp knives. You can keep the old mansion. Bring 500 won in cash and the divorce certificate if you want to save your pathetic life. The scumbag scrambled on the floor, dug out 500 yuan, and shoved it along with the divorce certificate into my hand. I stuffed the money deep into my inner pocket, holding it tight. Then I tossed the account book straight into the stove, watching it burn to ashes. From now on, we go our separate ways. If you ever dare to cross me again, I will skin you alive. My mother-in-law stared blankly at that thick stack of 10 yuan bills. Grief-stricken, she slapped her thigh in agony. A whole 500 yuan! You miserable jinx! You're ripping the very flesh off our bones. I didn't waste a single breath on those 2 beasts. Holding Dongzi with one hand and pulling New One with the other, I walked right out the door. Dongzi gripped my freezing fingers tightly. His little face, flushed bright red from the cold, was filled with panic. Mom, are we never going to have a home to live in again? I gently but firmly ruffled his messy hair and tucked in his worn-out little cotton jacket. As long as your mom is here, we have a home. From now on, we're going to eat fresh, white-steamed buns every single day. As we pridged through the howling wind and snow, I suddenly felt a searing heat against the bare skin of my chest. I reached into my inner clothes and felt the tiny copper abacus that Grandpa had forced into my hand before he died. The copper abacus was growing hotter and hotter against my chest, as if it hid a wild, beating heart inside. I didn't dare pull it out to look right there in the street, so I shielded my two shivering children as we walked onto the dirt road at the edge of the village. The north wind howled, whipping bits of ice right into our faces. The heavy snow quickly buried our footsteps, erasing all trace of us. Suddenly, two blinding beams of yellow light pierced the darkness ahead. Daniel pulled up right beside us, driving his hand tractor. He jumped down from the tractor bed in a frantic rush and wrapped a worn-out military trench coat around no one. Sister-in-law, did that bastard Jaguar really throw you all out? Quick, get on! Get out of this wind! I hoisted the two kids up by their bottoms and scrabbled into the tractor bed, my teeth shattering uncontrollably from the freezing cold. Banyu, my brother, could you please step on the gas and take us to my parents' place in Penghu, south of the city? The tractor roared to life with a loud chug-chug-chug, spilling thick black smoke as it rumbled toward the slums. Guanoan fell fast asleep, curled up tightly in my arms, with frozen tears still glistening on the corners of her eyes. Dongzi stared with wide, trembling eyes, his gaze locked onto those dilapidated mud houses, drawing closer in the snowy night. I looked at the dim, warm light glowing from our yard. It clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ground together. Pulling my two children along, I stepped through the broken courtyard gate. An old woman with graying hair rushed out of the house and pulled me into a tight, desperate embrace. Oh my goodness! In this freezing, snowy weather, how could Django have the heart to throw you all out? My throat tightened with tears. Pulling Dalzian Nonon down, I fell heavily to my knees in the snow. Mom? Jangguan has another woman. I took the kids and divorced him. Suddenly, the door curtain was ripped open. My second sister-in-law, wearing a floral padded jacket, rushed out. She pointed right at my face and shrieked, "A married-off daughter is like spilled water. We can barely even feed ourselves here. Where are we supposed to find the money to feed 3 freeloaders?" My second brother chinched her out of the house, his eyes red as he grabbed her arm. "Shut up, will you? Ischaya is my own sister. Even if I have to sell everything we own, I would support her." She violently shook off his hand, turned around, and stomped back inside. She dragged out a tattered sack. I'm done. I'm done living this miserable, dirt-poor life. I can't take this for even one more day. Tomorrow morning, we are getting a divorce." My mother collapsed onto the snow, covering her face, sobbing uncontrollably. My oldest brother rushed out of the carpentry workshop holding a wood plane and kicked the door frame hard. "Stop screaming, all of you! I'll go to the docks tomorrow to haul cargo. I won't let Saisai and her kids starve." Watching my entire family descend into absolute chaos, I reached my hand deep into my coat pocket. I tightly gripped the 500 yuan, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. At the first crack of dawn, my oldest sister-in-law's shrill, angry voice echoed through the courtyard. She was holding a chipped ceramic basin and slammed it violently onto the stone well. Water splashed everywhere. "We only have 5 pounds of cornmeal left in the entire house." And Mom went and secretly made it all into flatbread to pack for that woman and her 2 kids. My eldest brother poked his head out of the carpentry workshop, glaring furiously at my sister-in-law. "Shut your mouth." Sexy and the kids froze half the night yesterday. What's wrong with them having a hot meal? Hearing this, my sister-in-law plopped herself straight down onto the frozen mud and began throwing a wild, rolling tantrum. "The money my brother Miguel lent us is due any day now. And you're still treating this harbinger of bad luck like some queen." I pushed open the rickety wooden door and walked out, slamming 3 demount bills right onto the old elm table. Since my sister-in-law thinks I'm freeloading, this 31 will cover the food for me and the 2 kids this month. The courtyard fell dead silent. My sister-in-law stared dead-eyed at the thick stack of bills on the table, so scrambled forward on all fours, snatching the cash and gripping it tightly in her fist. Her shifty eyes darted around. "You gave this to us of your own free will. I didn't force you to cough up any money." I turned to look at my dad, who was sitting on the doorstep quietly smoking his pipe. "How much of the debt we owe by now is left?" "I'll find a way to pay it back." My dad's hand trembled, dropping his pipe to the ground. His bloodshot, cloudy eyes stared at me. "Interest. It's 50 yuan. My Bao said if we don't pay tomorrow, he's going to smash up our house." Late that night, in the quiet, Dongzi and Nguyen were fast asleep on the warm brick bed. I sat on the edge of the bed with a tattered cotton coat draped over my shoulders, examining the old bronze abacus around my neck by the moonlight. This abacus had been passed down from my grandfather. It usually looked completely ordinary, but tonight it felt strangely burning hot. I casually flicked one of the middle beads. Suddenly, a sharp wooden splinter sliced open my finger. As a drop of blood fell onto the bronze abacus, a blinding white light flashed right before my eyes. When I opened them again, I was standing inside a massive warehouse spanning over 1,000 square meters. The shelves were neatly packed with all kinds of goods I'd never even seen before, stretching out as far as the eye could see. I reached out to grab a stack of national food and cloth coupons from the bottom shelf, when a cold, mechanical voice suddenly rang in my head. Congratulations on binding with the epoch-spanning contribution warehouse. Current status, level 1. You can now replicate basic coupon supplies. My heart was pounding like a drum. I placed the food coupons in my hand onto the empty tray beside me. In the blink of an eye, an identical stack of brand new food coupons appeared in the tray out of thin air. I picked up both stacks of coupons, feeling the texture of the paper and checking the watermarks. They were the real deal. I turned to look at the mountains of rice, flour, oil, and grain piled high on the shelves. My hands couldn't stop shaking. Deep inside the warehouse, there was a locked iron door. A sign on the door read, "Funds required to upgrade and unlock." Early the next morning, I grabbed Third Brother and snuck out of the slums. The alley behind the old locust tree in the east of town was the biggest black market in the county. Third Brother was rubbing his hands anxiously, his eyes darting around warily. Reselling coupons is illegal speculation. If we get caught, we'll end up in prison. I grabbed a handful of brand new national food coupons from my cloth bag and shoved them into his hand. My gal's coming to tear our house apart tomorrow. Without money, how are we going to pay off the debt? A shifty-eyed, scarred man in a black padded coat approached, eyeing us like a rat. Got any fine grain coupons? I'll take as many as you have. I quickly grabbed Third Brother's hand to stop him and looked coldly at the scarred man. 1 yuan for every 1 jean coupon. No bargaining. And cloth coupons are 2 yuan each. The scarred man gasped, pulling a roll of crumpled, old bills from his jacket. You sure have a massive appetite. Give them all to me. Let me count them. Half an hour later, my pockets were stuffed with a whopping 300 yuan. I grabbed Third Brother and turned to leave. Third Brother's face was flushed red with excitement. He could barely walk straight. We're rich. Do you know how many pounds of pork fat this can buy? I covered his rambling mouth and hurried toward the alleys. Click, while a dark figure in the corner quietly snuffed out his cigarette and shadowed us. Just as we stepped out of the black market alley, I sensed something was wrong. 2 men in tattered rubber shoes had been tailing us from a short distance behind. Third Brother is still grinning, counting the cash in his pocket. I grab his arm without warning and pull him quickly into a dead-end alley. Don't look back. We're being followed. Stuff the cash down your pants and hide it. His face goes instantly pale, and his legs start to shake. Did we just mess with the local black market dugs? My eyes dart around the alley. Right at the end, there's a rusty iron gate covered in weeds. Behind it lies an old, abandoned air raid shelter. Inside, it's a complete maze. The 2 men tracking us have already reached the mouth of the alley. They're pulling metal rods out from their belts. I kick the iron gate open with all my strength and shove Third Brother inside. Get in. Run toward the dark. Susie and don't make a sound unless I tell you to. Third Brother scrambles frantically into the tunnel. I slip in right behind him. Inside, it's pitch black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. The walls are slick with wet, slimy moss. Outside, the angry, cursing footsteps of the 2 men echo closer. Just as I'm about to pull Third Brother deeper into the shadows, my foot trips over something soft on the ground. A sharp, sickening stench of blood hits my nose. There's a man lying on the ground, completely soaked in blood. The footsteps outside are getting closer and closer. The yellow beam of their flashlight sweeps across the iron gate. Suddenly, the bloody hand of the man on the ground shoots up and clamps tightly over my mouth. Shut up. Not if you... They're ruthless killers, and they're after me. His voice is low and raspy, dripping with a cold authority that demands absolute obedience. I pry his hand off my mouth, turn around, and whisper to Third Brother, "You lead the way. Head toward the ventilation shaft. Hurry!" Terrified, Third Brother scrambles, groping his way deeper into the pitch-black cave. I reach out in the darkness, feeling around for the man's wound. There's a deep slash on the left side of his abdomen, deep enough to see bone. Blood is still gushing out of it like crazy. I close my eyes. In an instant, my mind slipped into the storage dimension of my abacus. I grabbed a bottle of fast-acting hemostatic powder and a high-power flashlight from the medical shelf. I set the flashlight to strobe mode and threw it straight toward the fork in the path where the two thugs had entered. The blinding light instantly flashed in the thugs' eyes, blinding them. Two blood-curdling screams echoed through the air raid shelter. Taking advantage of their temporary blindness, I pressed the hemostatic powder hard onto the man's wound. The man groaned in sheer agony. The cold sweat from his forehead dripped onto the back of my hand. What kind of medicine is this? Its effect is so intense. I'd ignored him. I reached into my pocket dimension again and pulled out a miniature tear gas spray. Cut the crap. If you don't want to die, get up and follow me now. The thugs finally recovered, singing their iron bars wildly against the surrounding stone walls. I see you, you bastards. Hand over Guting John, and we'll let you die in one piece. I pulled Guting Chuan up from the ground, pointed the tear gas at the fork in the path, and pressed the trigger hard. A cloud of pungent white smoke instantly billowed out, sending the two of them into violent fits of coughing and gagging. Guting John seized the moment to shield me beneath him and kicked away one of the charging thugs. His movements were swift and brutal, completely unlike someone who was gravely injured and on the brink of death. Taking advantage of the chaos, I grabbed his arm and bolted toward the ventilation shaft third brother had found. By the time we crawled out of the vent, the sky was completely dark. Guting John leaned against the broken wall of the abandoned brick factory, his face as pale as a sheet of paper. Thank you for today. If I make it out of this alive, I will reward you handsomely. The moment those words left his mouth, his head slumped to the side, and he passed out cold, right in the patch of weeds. Terrified, third brother plopped flat on the ground, pointing at Gunchan as he stammered. Star. This guy has knife wounds on him. He must be a murderer. We need to get the hell out of here, now. I stared at Gunchan's military green shirt and his custom-made combat boots. His wounds are from military-grade combat knives. This wasn't some street brawl. This guy's identity is definitely not simple. I gritted my teeth, found two tattered woven bags nearby, and slipped them over Guting Juan's head and feet. My third brother stared in shock as I stuffed him into the bags. His voice was trembling. Are you out of your mind? Why the hell are you bringing some random shady guy home? He said he'd reward us generously. His life is worth at least 100 yuan. Under the cover of darkness, my third brother pedaled his rusty tricycle and hauled the sack back to the slums. While our parents were sound asleep, we secretly carried Guting John onto my brother's wooden bed. I brought in a basin of hot water and used scissors to cut away Guting John's blood-soaked clothes. The stab wound was so deep that if I didn't stitch it up, there was no way he'd survive the night. Taking a deep breath, I sent my consciousness back into the bronze abacus space. I spent 100 yuan to exchange for a basic suture kit and anesthetics from the medical zone. My third brother stared at the needle holder that suddenly appeared out of thin air in my hand, his eyes nearly popping out of his skull. Xiao, when on earth did you learn how to do medical stuff? I stuffed a clean towel into Guting John's mouth, never stopping my hands. Stop asking questions. Go keep Puach at the door for me. Don't open it for anyone, no matter who it is. Under the dim glow of the kerosene lamp, I carefully stitched up the raw, gaping wound, one needle at a time. Even though Guting Chuan was unconscious, his muscles were still as tense and hard as stone. After hours of exhausting work in the dead of night, Guting John's burning fever finally started to break. Just as dawn was breaking, Guting John suddenly snapped his eyes open. His gaze was as sharp as an eagle's, staring intently at me as I washed the blood-stained towels in the basin. What kind of medicine did you give me? Why is my wound healing this fast? I poured the bloody water down the drain, turned around, and looked at him calmly. It's a secret family ointment. You don't need to pry. All you need to know is, I saved your life. Guting Chuan propped himself up on the wooden bed and sat up, his eyes locked tightly onto my face. How much of a reward do you want? I held up one finger and waved it right in front of his eyes. 100 yuan, a pillowcase. Plus, while you're recovering here, you have to teach my brother how to fight. Guting John froze for a moment. Then, a subtle cold smirk played on his lips. Deal. But the fact that I'm staying here, not a single word of it can get out. Suddenly, a violent pounding echoed from the courtyard gate, mingled with the shouting of my sister-in-law's brother, Mompiao. Everyone in the Lin family, get the hell out here. If you don't pay up today, I'll skin you all alive. Baitao kicked open the dilapidated courtyard gate with a loud crash. The door hinges snapped with a screeching crack. Ma Yao strutted into the courtyard, flanked by 4 of his thug-like lackeys. My oldest brother, Lin Jingjun, was working in the yard with his wood plane. He quickly rushed over to greet them. Please, brother, just give us a few more days, all right? I'll go haul sacks at the docks right away to make money and pay you back. Mandao spat a thick glob of phlegm right onto my brother's shoe. He slapped him across the face, snarling. If you don't have the cash, stop acting like a big shot. If you don't give me the money today, I'll smash your stove to pieces. One of his thugs behind him raised an iron bars and slammed it violently into the water vat in the yard. With a loud crash, the water vat shattered into pieces on the ground, and half a tub of water completely soaked the wood shavings scattered on the ground. My brother's eyes turned bloodshot with rage. He raised the wooden planer in his hand, ready to charge and fight for his life. But my bell kicked him right in the stomach. My brother groaned in pain and collapsed into the muddy water. Inside, my mother held the two children close, weeping in terror. My sister-in-law stood under the eaves, but instead of stopping them, she just watched with a malicious, smug look on her face. I told you a long time ago to sign the deed of this old house over to my brother, but you just had to be stubborn. You totally deserve this beating. I flung the door open, strode out with powerful steps. Mom marched right up to Meow. Meow looked me up and down. His eyes were filled with a sleazy, menacing glare. Well, isn't this the trash Wang Zhongwen just kicked out of his house? Quite a looker, though. I pulled a thick stack of cash out of my pocket and slammed it down hard onto the stone roller nearby. $50, principal and interest. Not a single penny short. Take the money and get the hell out of my house. Bayo stared at the stack of cash. His eyes darted back and forth. And he suddenly sneered. $50 was yesterday's price. To today's lost wages added. You owe me $100. My older brother trembled with rage. He pointed at Mabi and roared. This is extortion. Pure blackmail. Do you want me to report you to the police? I held my brother back. I turned around, went inside, and grabbed a pen and paper. With a few quick strokes, I wrote out a life and death waiver. Ma Biao, do you have the guts to make a bet with me? A one-on-one fight. No holds barred. Death or injury. No one is held responsible. Maya looked at me as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. He pointed at me, laughing so hard he doubled over. A weak woman like you wants to fight me? If you lose, you sign this courtyard over to me. I slammed the waiver right onto his chest. My eyes were cold as ice. If you lose, this debt is completely wiped clean. And from now on, you steer clear of the Lin family. Without a second thought, Ma Bao pressed his thumbprint onto the waiver. He tossed his cigarette butt aside. Like a wild, raging boar, he swung his massive fist straight at my face. At that critical, split-second moment, Thinking Wan's deep, chilling voice rang out from the inner room. Dodge left, step forward, and strike 3 inches below his right rib. My body reacted faster than my brain. Instantly following his command, I ducked low. Mabel's face grazed past my scalp. His right rib was left completely exposed. I gathered every ounce of my strength and drove a powerful punch right into his weak spot. My Gao gasped in pain, sucking in a sharp breath. He clutched his ribs, stumbling back step after step. You miserable bitch! How dare you hide a helper in the house? Blinded by rage, he snatched an iron rod off the ground and lunged at me once more. Use his own momentum against him. Don't take it head on. Kick the back of his left knee. Fainting Ja's voice cut through the air, right on cue. As cold and precise as a killing machine. I slipped to the side, dodging the brutal swing of the rod, and drove my right heel hard into the back of Mabao's left knee. With a sickening crack of snapping bone, Mabashi creaked in agony and crashed straight down to his knees right in front of me. The 4 thugs he brought along stared at each other in sheer terror. Not a single one of them dared to make a move. I slammed my foot down on Bile's hand as he reached for the rod and ground my heel into his knuckles. Had enough yet? Because if you haven't, I can keep going until you do. Sweating profusely from the blinding pain, my Bill desperately slammed his head on the ground, begging for mercy. Mercy! I was wrong. The debt is completely wiped clean. I swear I'll never show my face here again. I threw the liability waiver straight into his face and turned a cold glare toward my sister-in-law, standing under the eaves. Mo Shufin, your brother's dirty debt is officially settled. Now, it's time to settle yours. My sister-in-law turned white as a ghost and hid behind the doorframe, stammering out, I'm your sister-in-law. You can't treat me with such disrespect. I pointed a sharp finger at our rundown courtyard gate, my voice dropping, heavy and absolute. You let your brother come here and tear our home apart. Today, you either divorce my brother and get the hell out of here, or you sign this agreement and cut ties with your family forever. Unwilling to lose her marriage, my sister-in-law gritted her teeth and pressed her ink-stained thumbprint onto the severance papers. With the traitor inside our home finally rooted out, I finally let out a long, heavy sigh of relief. Once Bayo and his thugs were gone, I began cleaning up the wreckage in the courtyard. My older brother just stood there, his eyes red and brimming with tears, staring at me. His eyes were filled with guilt and confusion. Chasya! When did you learn such incredible self-defense moves? I brushed it off with a few vague words. I gave the money I made from the black market to Mom, so she could buy grain and meat. That night, I entered my bronze abacus space again, standing right in front of the shelves in the seasoning section. Do I want to truly make a fortune? Just reselling ration coupons isn't a long-term solution. I grabbed a massive bag of high-concentration chili extract, some cumin powder, and a whole basket of cognac powder, then headed back to the kitchen. I boiled water in the giant iron pot, mixing the cognac powder with water until it formed a dough. Then, I added the secret spices from my magical space. Instantly, a rich, mouth-watering, spicy aroma burst right through the roof. Dumsy and Moonwon smelled it and came running into the kitchen, drooling with anticipation. I cut off 2 bright, glossy red pieces of cognac and popped them straight into the kids' mouths. Galzi panted from the heat, but his eyes lit up like stars. "Mom, this is 100 times better than meat." I took a bite myself. The spicy, thrilling explosion of flavor instantly burst on my tongue. Tomorrow, I'm taking this pot of handmade spicy strips to the gates of Honshik Steel Factory to make a killing. The next day at noon, just as the morning shift bell rang at Hongsing Steel Factory, third brother and I hauled the wooden bucket full of spicy strips off the tricycle. I pulled back the cotton cloth covering it, and a powerful, mouth-watering, spicy aroma drifted right through the factory gates on the biting wind. The workers pouring out of the gates looked absolutely mesmerized as they started crowding around us. A heavyset man in blue overalls swallowed hard, pointing at the glistening, red-hot, spicy strips in the bucket. "Hey, little sister, what on earth are you selling? How does it smell even better than the Commune Canteen's braised pork?" I picked up a bamboo skewer, speared a huge chunk of spicy strip, and held it right to his mouth. "This is my family's heirloom recipe. Handmade spicy strips. No meat coupons required. Just 10 cents for a massive scoop." The man took a hesitant bite, and his eyes instantly went wide. He gasped at the sharp, fiery kick. "Holy Mother of God, this is absolutely incredible. Give me 50 cents worth. I'm taking this home to go with my drinks." The moment we opened for business, the workers nearby instantly went wild. Waving their pocket change, they packed around our little stall, blocking it completely. In less than half an hour, our giant bucket of spicy strips was completely sold out. People even scraped up the last drops of chili oil from the bottom of the bucket. Third brother's pockets were stuffed, bulging with small bills, and he was so excited that his hands and feet were trembling. Just as third brother was about to push the cart home, a few towering thugs suddenly pushed through the crowd and surrounded us. The leader was the coup director's relative, Lee Fengpi, who had half a cheap cigarette dangling from his mouth. He kicked our empty wooden bucket hard, glaring at me with vicious eyes. "Who gave you permission to set up a stall here? Don't you know this is my turf?" My face went cold as I shielded the money bag in front of me and pulled third brother back behind me. "The area in front of the sand factory is public land. Who decided that only you, Boss Lee, are allowed to sell seeds here?"
Lee fucking Shilian.
And Fearless crushed his cigarette butt against the edge of our wooden bucket. "If you want to do business in this area, you have to play by my rules. First, pay me $50 in protection money today." Hearing him demand money, third brother's face turned red with anger. He shielded me and yelled, "This is robbery. Is there no law and order left in broad daylight?"
Lee Kui waved his hand,
and the thugs behind him instantly flipped our tricycle over. "Smash it. Trash this worthless stall to pieces. Let's see if they ever dare to come back." The thugs grabbed wooden clubs and smashed them down onto our equipment. I snatched a metal ladle from beneath the tricycle and threw it right at the thug, rushing us first. The ladle hit the thug right in the forehead. He let out a painful shriek, clutching his head and crouching on the ground. Furious, Lee Fugi snapped. He grabbed a wooden club and swung it straight at my face. At that critical moment, a black Santana screeched to a sudden halt by the side of the road. The car door swung open. A young man wearing a wool overcoat and a pair of aviator sunglasses stepped out of the car. Young Madrigal frowned, glaring at the chaotic crowd. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He barked impatiently. "Lee Fugi, you think you're a big shot now? How dare you start a street brawl right in front of the county committee office?" The moment Lee Fugi saw who it was, the wooden club in his hand clattered to the ground. Young Master Zhao, this woman doesn't know the rules. She's stealing my business." I was just teaching her a lesson. Young Master Zhao walked over to my stall. Sniffing the air, he caught the lingering, mouth-watering aroma of my spicy gluten strips. "What were you just selling? Why is there such a unique, spicy cumin aroma?" I put away my iron ladle, looking calm and composed at the county party secretary's only son. "Handmade spicy gluten strips," I replied. "If you'd like to try some, young Master Zhao, I can personally save a portion for you tomorrow at noon." The next day at noon, young Master Zhao showed up right on time, pulling up to my stall in his Santana. I was already prepared. I handed him a premium batch of spicy cognac strips, neatly wrapped in clean, grease-proof paper. Young Master Zhao took a bite, and his eyes instantly lit up. He wolfed down several pieces before finally pausing. "This taste, it's incredible. This rich, spicy flavor beats those imported snacks at the department store by a mile." Striking while the iron was hot, I pulled the business proposal I'd written overnight out of my pocket and handed it to him. If you think it's good, young Master Zhao, why don't we partner up? You pull the strings with the Bureau of Commerce and local distributors, and I'll handle the production. Young Master Zhao flipped through the proposal, and the more he read, the more stunned he became. Mass distribution, joint venture models, consignment sales through the department store. You're just a street vendor. How do you know so much about business? I offered a calm smile, throwing down my trump card, the profit-sharing plan I had prepared. Not only do I know how, but I can guarantee you'll make enough to buy 2 brand new Santanas within the first 3 months. We'll split the profits 30-70. Young Master Zhao snapped the proposal shut. He stared into my eyes with intense curiosity. Well, you've got a lot of nerve. Fine. I'll take a gamble on you. From now on, this area is under my protection. With young Master Zhao's backing, Li Fuge and his gang of thugs didn't dare cause trouble anymore. My handmade spicy strips flooded every single cooperative store in the county. Every day, our profits snowballed, growing larger and larger. The metal lockbox at home was stuffed full of cash. Late one night, I locked my door tight and spread all the cash out in front of my brass abacus. I bit my finger and let the blood drip onto the brightest bead in the center of the abacus. A deep rumble echoed through the space, and the locked iron door slowly creaked open. Congratulations, host. Funding target met. The Cross Era Mega Mall is now officially open. I stepped into the newly unlocked section, gazing at the shelves packed with hot ticket items from the 1980s. There were dual-deck cassette recorders, Seagull brand cameras, and even the trendiest aviator sunglasses and digital watches. In this era of extreme shortages, every single one of these items could be traded for a thick stack of cash. I picked up a shiny digital watch and strapped it onto my wrist, unable to keep from smirking. Now I have the capital and have the distribution channels. It's time to go all out and become a big-time reseller. I turned to look out the window, and Wan Zhanggu's sickening face flashed across my mind. Once I establish myself in the provincial capital, it will be the exact moment that Scumbag and his family lose absolutely everything. With the money in my pockets now, I bought premium Dacron fabric to make new clothes for everyone in my family. There was finally real meat on our dining table, with at least 2 meat dishes served every single day. My older brother didn't have to break his back hauling sacks at the docks anymore. I paid for him to get his tractor driver's license. Thing Guan's wounds had completely healed, but the cold, dangerous aura around him only seemed to grow stronger. Late one afternoon, just as I finished balancing the books in my room, I looked out and saw Gutenjuan practicing his punches in the yard. He was bare-chested, every single punch cutting through the air with a sharp, piercing whoosh. My 3 brothers stood to the side, completely transfixed, their faces filled with pure admiration.
Thing Tinjan stopped what he was doing.
Wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at me. I kept my word, he said. I've taught your brothers the basics of military hand-to-hand combat. I nodded, pulled 50 yuan from my pocket, and handed it to him. This is your hard-earned pay. And here is another 50 yuan to cover your meals for the past few days. Ping Tuan didn't take the money. Instead, he took a step closer, crowding my space. I don't need money, he murmured, but I do need to borrow your shipping channels to send a batch of special goods back to the capital. I took a wary step back, staring straight into his eyes. I'm just an honest reseller. I don't deal in contraband. King Dingguan pulled a military green 499 card from his pocket and flashed it in front of me. Even though it was just a quick glimpse, I clearly saw the bright red official stamp and the word capital. I'm a veteran, he whispered. Currently helping the higher-ups investigate a major multi-province case. He lowered his voice, carrying an undeniable authority. What I need to smuggle out is the evidence I seized from the smuggling ring, backing Li Fuge. My heart skipped a beat. No wonder he was being hunted down in that air raid shelter the other day. I can help you cover it up, I said, but you must promise that my family won't get dragged into this. Kintin Chuan gave me a long, deep look, a strange new emotion flickering in his eyes. Don't worry, he murmured. As long as I'm breathing, no one will dare lay a single finger on your family. That night, my eldest brother drove our newly bought walking tractor, hiding the heavy wooden crate among the shipments of spicy snacks, to smuggle it out of town. Once Kuchan's business was taken care of, I began my reselling empire in full swing. Utilizing the advantages of my magical, I sourced a massive haul of ration-free digital watches and aviator sunglasses. My eldest brother put together a small transport fleet, while my third brother took charge of distributing the goods across every major intersection in the county. That day, third brother ran back to the courtyard, panting heavily. He downed 2 big jars of cold water in one go. This batch of goods of ours is drawing too much attention. The people from the department store are trying to dig up our background. I casually flicked the brass abacus in my hand, my face completely calm. Let them dig all they want. A piece of cake this juicy was bound to catch the eye of the big shots sooner or later.
13 Chuan sat under the eaves,
Polishing a military dagger, and cooled the chimed in. It's the head of procurement at the department store.
He's Wan Yangbo's brother-in-law.
You two better watch your backs. I froze, my fingers stopping dead on the abacus. A sudden surge of fury rushed straight to my head. So those annoying pests are pulling strings behind our backs again. No wonder they swarmed over the second they caught a whiff. I slammed the ledger shut and stood straight up. If they want to dig so badly, then I'll head into the city myself and show them who they're dealing with. The next day, I put on a sharp, crisp suit and headed into the city all by myself. I didn't go straight to the department store. Instead, I turned into a secluded alley nearby. At the end of the alley stood an elegant, antique courtyard house with a plaque over the gate that read, Kuhn's Clinic of Rejuvenation. According to what young Master Zhao had let slip, the real boss behind the department store is a retired... The one who actually calls the shots at the department store is Qin Huaide, a semi-retired veteran doctor of Chinese medicine. But the moment I stepped into the courtyard, I heard violent coughing and the sound of things being smashed to pieces inside. You quacks! If anything happens to my grandfather, I will tear this pathetic clinic to the ground. I rushed into the inner room and saw an old man lying on the bed, clinging to his last breath. Several doctors in white coats were sweating profusely, completely helpless. Without a second thought, I instantly retrieved a heart-boosting shot and slices of 100-year-old wild ginseng from my pocket dimension. Move out of the way. If you wanted to live, do exactly as I say. I shoved the panicked doctors aside, sieved the ginseng slice under the old man's tongue, and prepped the syringe. Suddenly, Elder Qin's grandson grabbed my wrist in a vice grip, glaring at me with pure fury. Who the hell do you think you are? Some kind of back-alley doctor? How dare you shove that garbage into my grandfather's mouth? I violently twisted my arm and broke free from his grip, my eyes flashing as sharp as a blade. This is premium wild ginseng. It's the only thing keeping him alive right now. If you delay his treatment, can you take responsibility for his life? The guy was completely stunned by my sheer intensity and stood frozen in place, not daring to stop me again. 15 minutes later, the old man on the bed finally stopped convulsing, and his breathing gradually leveled out. The other doctors in the room wiped the cold sweat from their brows, looking at me as if I were a living miracle worker. Instead, Elder Qin slowly opened his eyes, weakly squeezing my hand. Little girl, it was your 100-year-old wild ginseng that saved this old man's life. I took the opportunity to sit by the bed, pulling several of the latest digital watches from my cloth bag and placing them on the table. Elder Qin, I actually came today hoping to negotiate a business deal with the city department store. Elder Qin glanced at the watches on the table, then smiled and nodded. No problem, since you saved my life. And you want a consignment counter at the department store? I'll make the call and secure 3 of them for you. Clutching the authorization slip, handwritten by Elder Qin, I walked out of the courtyard, taking a deep breath of the crisp, cold air. The sales channel at the department store was officially open. Lan Tiangbo, your days are officially numbered. Just a few days after returning from the city, news that I was building a brand new brick house in the slums spread like wildfire. One afternoon, just as I finished balancing my books, my ramshackle courtyard gate was suddenly kicked open from the outside. Old Mrs. Wang and Wang Guo, carrying 2 pounds of cheap, faded brown sugar, marched right in, thick-skinned as ever. Wang Yangguo stared at the piles of new bricks and timber cluttering the yard, his eyes burning with naked, undisguised greed. Sasai, I heard you've made a fortune in business now, and that you've already become a 10,000 yuan household. He rubbed his hands together and crept closer, wearing a sickeningly sweet expression that he clearly thought was charming. That little home-wrecking fox stole my money and ran off. It was only then that I realized, no one treats me better than my first wife. Come on, let's get back together. Old Lady Wang quickly scurried over too, squeezing out fake tears. Exactly, Dongzi, and no one can't grow up without their real father. I let out a cold sneer, grabbed a brew nearby, and slammed it down hard, right at the feet of this mother and son. Stop disgusting me. Who the hell do you think you are? Are you even worthy of mentioning my kids? Wan Zhangguan's face instantly darkened, and he pointed right at my nose, flying into a rage. Li Sao, don't push your luck. You're just a woman showing your face out in public. Sooner or later, you're going to crash and burn. I didn't want to waste my breath on these 2 pieces of trash, so I just blew a sharp whistle. From the corner of the yard, a half-man tall, pure-bred German Shepherd rushed out like black lightning. This was a top-tier guard dog I bought from the Space Mall for 50 yuan. He was incredibly fierce. Baring his fangs, the big black dog lunged straight at Wang Zhangguo's pants legs. Wang Yuan was scared out of his wits, scrambling and crawling to run out of the gate. Help! This little bitch is setting her dog on me. She's trying to kill me. Old Lady Wang was a step too slow, and the big black dog bit right into her cotton trousers. She collapsed right onto her butt in the muddy water, terrified scattering the brown sugar in her hands all over the ground. I chased them all the way out of the alley with my broom and slammed the yard gate shut with a loud bang. The big black dog ran back to my side, rubbing against my leg to please me. I patted his head, but a faint sense of unease crept into my heart. A scheming coward like Wang Gong would never let this go. He would definitely go back and team up with that fake heiress Li Lijun to did into my background. My premonition soon came true, and trouble came knocking much harder than I had expected. Half a month later, my 3 consignment counters in the city department store had just been fully stocked with goods. Clanking her high heels, Lid rushed into the building with several uniform officials from the Bureau of Industry and Commerce. She pointed at the hot-selling sunglasses and digital watches in the display cases and laughed arrogantly, shouting, "Seize all of this! This woman is guilty of illegal trading. All of these goods are smuggled contraband." The lead officer didn't say a single word. He just waved his hand, ordering his men to seal up the shop. My brother rushed forward, trying to stop them, but the officer shoved him hard, sending him crashing onto the glass counter. "Who dares to interfere with our official duty? Take them all in, both the people and the merchandise." I quickly shielded my brother and glared coldly at the smug, self-satisfied Li Lijun. "Do you actually have any proof that my goods belong to Josie? This is a perfectly legitimate consignment business."
Li Lijun leaned close to my ear, whispering with a venomous smirk.
"My godfather is the deputy director of the Municipal Commerce Bureau. If I say you're guilty, then you are guilty." Just as they were about to drag my workers away, a military jeep suddenly screeched to a halt right at the entrance of the department store. After entrance, the entire lobby fell deathly quiet. You could hear a pin drop. The lead officer was so terrified his knees went weak as he stammered, staring at the military insignia on Gu Tingjuan's shoulders. "Commander, sir. We were just acting on a neighborhood tip to conduct a routine seizure of illegal goods." Li Lijun shook with rage, pointing a finger at Gun Chuan and screaming, "That's impossible. She's just a rejected country bumpkin. How could she possibly know someone from the military?" Peng Qinzhuo cast a freezing glance at her, looking at her as if she were already dead. With the ceiling tape ripped down, the department store was back in business. Li Liz glared at me, gnashing her teeth in hatred. Her face was twisted with rage, looking like a hideous banshee. "Don't get cocky too soon, Li Xiao. As long as I am still the factory director's daughter, I can easily crush you." I took a slow, deliberate step toward her and raised my hand, delivering a fierce, ringing slap right across her face. The sharp smack echoed through the entire lobby. Li Xin clutched her burning cheek, completely dazed. I locked eyes with her panicked, trembling face, my voice dropping to a freezing whisper. "An imposter who stole someone else's life dares to put on airs of a wealthy heiress in front of me?" Li Lizin's pupils dilated instantly, a look of sheer, unadulterated terror flashing in her eyes. What absolute rubbish are you talking about? I am the rightful daughter of the factory director." I casually shook out my stinging palm, leaned close to her ear, and whispered a single sentence. "A stolen identity has to be paid back, sooner or later. That red birthmark on your left shoulder blade is fake, isn't it?" Li Lijun looked as if she had seen a ghost. She stumbled back 3 steps and scrabbled out of the department store, utterly terrified. Watching her run away, I gently touched the real, crescent-shaped birthmark on my own left shoulder blade. Back in my old house, in the Ponyu district, I locked the door and dug out a few old, tattered clothes from the very bottom of a chest. Hidden inside the lining of a yellowed, coarse cotton jacket, I found a perfectly preserved black and white baby photo. On the back, 3 words were scribbled in crooked handwriting. Li Hongmei. What was Li Lijun's actual birth name? In the photo, the little girl's back was completely clear. There wasn't a single trace of that crescent-shaped birthmark that proved her identity. Just then, my mother pushed open the door and walked in. When she saw the photo in my hands, tears started streaming down her face. "Say, Asya, back when you were abandoned at the gates of the orphanage. This photo was tucked inside your swaddling blanket." I clenched the photo in my hand. The final pieces of the puzzle in my mind finally fell into place. Back then, to give Li Lijun a better life, her biological parents threw me into the orphanage. She stole my identity, living in luxury with the factory director's family. While I was left to struggle at the very bottom of society, I carefully slipped the photo into my inner pocket. Since God has given me a second chance at life, I will take back everything that belongs to me, with interest. Next afternoon, Tanu and I went to the clothing factory in Ling County to pick up a new batch of polyester shirts. As we drove our walking tractor around a sharp bend on the mountain road, Tanu suddenly slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched against the muddy road, barely stopping right at the edge of the cliff. Before we could even catch our breath, 5 or 6 masked men sprang out from the bushes on both sides, holding machetes in their hands. They started hacking at the tractor cart without a second thought. The leader slammed his blade into the cabin door, glaring at me with pure malice. Someone paid us to take your life. This time next year will be the anniversary of your death. Then Yu grabbed a wrench from the car, ready to fight them to the death. But he was instantly pinned to the ground by two thugs and beaten half to death. My mind raced desperately. Just as I was about to pull a stun baton from my pocket dimension to defend myself, a military motorcycle roared down the winding mountain road. It slammed straight into the masked leader, sending him flying. Seng Tuan and his motorcycle crashed heavily onto the gravel. But without even stopping to catch his breath, he leaped to his feet. He snatched a machete off the ground and charged into the crowd like an enraged lone wolf, the blunt back of his blade swinging furiously. He broke the limbs of all the remaining thugs. They collapsed to the ground, wailing in agony. Pintun Dra tossed the machete aside and rushed toward me. Anxiety filled his usually cold face. "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" I shook my head, but my eyes were glued to his right arm, which was dripping with blood.
To shield me from a fatal blow just moments ago.
His arm had been slashed open, leaving a deep, bloody gash. I ripped off the hem of my shirt to bandage the wound, my voice trembling uncontrollably. "Are you out of your mind? You could have died." Fu Tingchong gripped my shoulders tightly with his uninjured left hand, his eyes burning with intense emotion. "You're the one who saved my life in the first place. From now on, your life is mine to protect." I stared into his deep, intense eyes, and a piece of my cold, guarded heart suddenly crumbled. This setup made me see Li Lijun and Wang Yeo for what they truly were. Desperate rats backed into a corner. I abandoned the idea of a head-on clash and decided to pull the rug out from under them completely. I would cut off their every escape route. That night, I searched through my pocket dimension for the National Food and Cloth coupon stubs, gross-referencing them with a secret ledger. That ledger was ironclad proof of Li Lijun's godfather abusing his power to hoard and resell goods on the black market for massive profits.
As for Wang Jianbo,
Even though I had burned the ledger detailing his illegal sales of the factory's steel, I remembered every single transaction in detail. I took my third brother and secretly tracked down several black market merchants who had dealt with Wang Genghua, as long as the price was right. These people were willing to spill every dirty secret they knew. I packed the recorded tapes and photocopied ledgers into 2 manila envelopes.
Feng Tingchong sat across from me.
Watching my seamless, effortless movements. Wang Genghua was right there, blending in with the factory's delegation, grinning from ear to ear, already dreaming of his big promotion. I was wearing a sharp, tailored business suit, clicking across the floor in my high heels. I walked straight up to the microphone on the stage. The moment Li Lijun saw me, her face completely changed. She jumped to her feet, pointed right at me, and screamed at the security guards, "Get this scheming country shrew out of here right now!" I didn't even look at her. Instead, I just reached down and pressed play on the old tape recorder in my hand. Instantly, Wang Gano's voice blasted through the speakers, bargaining with a black market boss to illegally resell steel.
The smile on Wang Ganglo's face instantly froze.
His legs turned to jelly, and he collapsed right back into his chair. Then, I held up a thick stack of documents from another manila envelope. Right here are the files on Deputy Director Wang of the Bureau of Commerce, showing every single transaction where he abused his power to resell state-owned materials on the black market. The entire hall fell dead silent. Every single eye in the room shot like daggers toward the two people in the first row. Li Lijun's godfather looked like death, his face completely pale. The finger he was pointing at me was shaking violently. Seeing your godfather on the verge of collapsing. Li Lijun charged onto the stage like a rabid dog. She lunged forward, trying to snatch the manila envelope from my hands, even kicking one of her fancy high heels right off. "You're lying through your teeth. You fabricated all of this. I'm going to sue you for slander." I sidestepped easily, dodging her frantic lunge, and grabbed her wrist in a vice grip. Fabricated. Every single red thumbprint on this ledger was pressed by your godfather's own hand. Suddenly, the auditorium doors were kicked open. Several uniformed police officers marched in. The officer in the lead flashed an arrest warrant, went straight up to the pale deputy director, and said, "Wang Defa, you are under arrest for embezzlement and the illegal sale of state assets. Come with us." Li Lijun collapsed onto the floor, paralyzed with fear. Her heavy makeup was completely ruined by her tears. Seeing that things were going south, Wang Jiangu shrinking neck and tried to slip away through the crowd. But my older brother, Ling Jingjin, and his fleet of drivers blocked the exit like a solid wall.
Wang Jianwu, you still owe our factory for 2 tons of steel.
Where do you think you're running?
Qin Tuanchun stepped out of the shadows.
Staring coldly down at Wang Yanggu, who looked like a beaten dog. The police slapped handcuffs on Wang Jiaguo and Li Lijun. Li Lijun thrashed and struggled desperately, her messy hair making her look like a complete madwoman. "You've got the wrong person. I'm the factory director's daughter. You can't do this to me." Suddenly, a middle-aged couple with green hair walked into the auditorium, their faces grim with rage. The old factory director stared at the handcuffed Li Lijin, shaking with pure rage. Starting today, you are no thing events. You are no Abbot of the Li family. Li Lijin froze as if struck by lightning, staring blankly at the old factory director. Dad, are you really abandoning your own biological daughter? The director's wife, tears streaming down her face, rushed over to me, trembling. She pulled out a black and white baby photo. She isn't. You're our real daughter, the one who was switched at birth in the hospital. Looking at my biological parents weeping in front of me, I felt absolutely nothing. I took a step back, looking at them calmly. I don't blame you for what happened back then. But after 20 years of suffering, I've already learned to survive on my own. Hearing this, Li Lijin completely broke down, screaming bloody murder as the police dragged her out of the auditorium.
Wen Gogo was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
His wicked mother, who had unlawfully occupied my old townhouse, had a stroke on the spot when she heard the verdict. Li Lijin and her crooked godfather got exactly what they deserved too, spending the rest of their lives doing hard labor behind bars. Seeing the scumbag and his mistress get what was coming to them was incredibly satisfying. But I wasn't about to slow down my hustle. Young Master Zhao, all with exclusive distribution rights and massive orders from various supply and marketing cooperatives, came rushing over to my house in high spirits.
小谢，
The aviator sunglasses and digital watches are completely sold out everywhere. Do you have any more in stock? I leaned back in my rattan chair, picked up my metal mug, and took a slow sip of hot tea. Footing those cheap trinkets is just hard-earned money. I'm going to make a massive play. Young Master Zhao froze. He stared at me, his eyes wide with shock. You're making a fortune every single day in this county, and even that isn't enough for you? Just what are you planning to do? I stood up, kicked over to the provincial map hanging on the wall, and tapped heavily on the capital city. I'm going to open the very first mega department store in the capital. And I will monopolize every high-demand commodity in the market. On our grand opening day, the busiest intersection in the capital was packed shoulder to shoulder. Bulky color televisions, double-door refrigerators, and the latest video recorders were all in unlimited supply. No rationing coupons required. Our first day's revenue completely shattered the provincial department store's 10-year record. When we closed up and balanced the books that night, my big brother stared at the massive bundles of cash, his eyes turning as red as a rabbit's. Sis, our family has been dirt poor in the slums for generations. I never dreamed we'd strike it this rich today. I locked the money in the safe and turned to look at Kun Chung, who was smoking in the corner. Joe's sign has been dealt with, and that scumbag is behind bars. Shouldn't you, our great commander, be heading back to the capital now? Ting Chuang stubbed out his cigarette and strode right up to me. The burning intensity in his eyes was almost overwhelming. I indeed should head back, but before I do, there's still one last, crucial thing I must take care of. He pulled a red velvet box from his uniform pocket and dropped to one knee right in front of me. Inside the box lay a gleaming gold ring. Looking down at Gun Chuan on his knee, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. What are you doing? Since when does a high-ranking commander kneel down to someone like me? Qin Tunruan's gaze was unwavering, without a single trace of hesitation. Lei Xiaohua, you are the only one for me in this lifetime. Come back to the capital with me. I'll protect you with my life for the rest of our days. I stared into his deep, piercing eyes. Memories of us running for our lives flashed through my mind, along with scenes of us turning the tables on our enemies. I reach out my hand, let him slip that gold ring firmly onto my ring finger. 6 months later, my department stores have spread to every corner of the country. On New Year's Eve, 1985, I stand in the penthouse private room of the most luxurious hotel in the capital. Deng Zi and Nongwan, dressed in beautiful new clothes, are chasing Ku Tingshan, laughing and playing around the room. The entire Lin family is gathered around the steaming round table, chatting and laughing. I look at the brilliant fireworks outside the window and gently touch the warm bronze abacus resting on my chest. Climbing out of the abyss, tearing that scumbag to pieces, and leading my family to the absolute peak of wealth in these roaring 80s. This is my Lin Shaw's real life.